This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
It is the day of the NFL draft, which means things are going to move fast, and so will we. We're going to try to get this podcast recorded for you in pretty quick order because markets move fast for today, and when they move, they're going to be moving based on information. We're going to talk about what that means to start things off for today, but then we're going to dive into my favorite bets for the NFL draft based on the odds as of 9:09 a.m. Eastern on Thursday morning. We're going to go through my thoughts on Jaxson Dart. We're going to talk about the way that mock drafts have even compared to Shedeur Sanders. We're going to break down some running backs potentially going in round one, and we'll break down the number 6 overall pick, assuming the market does not move before we get to that later on today. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to give my thoughts on the 2025 NFL draft, letting you know where I'm seeing value as of Thursday morning over at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll dive into everything here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the Covering the Spread podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, next week, a big one in the betting world because it's Kentucky Derby week. Couple shows coming your way, both breaking down the Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. Christina Blacker of FanDuel TV and FanDuel Racing will join me to give her thoughts on those. Those shows will be up Wednesday and Thursday. So, couple shows next week. Also, Pigeon Ninja back in the show on Friday, breaking down his big takeaways from the opening month of Major League Baseball. All those shows right here on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Get that wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear. Leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, these NFL shows do go on the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page too. If you're watching YouTube, leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate all of you watching on YouTube. As always, FanDuel is the best place to find all your favorite player props. And now you can make a heads-up play with player performance trends. That means whether you want to bet on a player to score 30 points or put up a triple-double, you can check out the latest stats and see who is hot without leaving the app. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. If you don't already have FanDuel, playoff time is the perfect time to join. You'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So just visit FanDuel to join today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit M&D Gambling Help Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit Gambling Helpline MA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, before we actually take a look here at the betting odds for today, did want to give a quick disclaimer on how things work for the draft. Last year, after the draft, I did a podcast breaking down my key takeaways from betting the 2024 NFL draft. And to me, the most important takeaway was I don't want to bet against steam on the day of the draft. And what that means is, let's say there is a player who I say you should bet to go 6th overall, and I say he's plus 160 at the time of recording. You pull up your app later on today, after you're listening to this later on, and you see that player is now plus 200, plus 210, plus 250, somewhere in that range. In some situations, you could be, okay, I'm buying low on this player. Market's moved against them. I can actually buy in at a better number. Today's not a day where I would do that, because in these hours leading into the NFL draft, that's where the actual information comes out. Bill Belichick was on the Pat McAfee show last year and said, in the 12 hours leading into the draft, that's where real information will come out. We are now within 12 hours of the draft. So if you see a market move in a pretty significant way, it's probably moving based on legitimate, actual information and not just lying season, rumors, stuff like that, smoke screens. So I'm going to give my recommendations for today. If the market has moved against me since my recording, I would not recommend you bet that. I think that would be a tough look for sure. So I'm going to give you the things that I like, but there is a very good chance that I'm wrong. And I want to be very clear about that from the jump. So check out the markets, see where they're at. And if things have moved against me, I would probably stay away from that recommendation for sure. Let's start things off here by talking about the most important position and the most fun position, honestly, I think, for this draft, trying to dissect it, and that is the quarterbacks. It does not seem like either Jaxson Dart or Shedeur Sanders will be going early on in this draft. Both these guys likely to fall as of right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Looking at the draft positions for them, Shedeur Sanders' draft position at FanDuel Sportsbook is 21.5. Over is plus 114. A lot of mock drafts recently mocking him to the Steelers at position or at pick number 21. Jaxson Dart, meanwhile, his over-under is 25.5 with the over at minus 152. So betting markets are saying in general, Shedeur Sanders is going to go ahead of Jaxson Dart, and that is reflected in the markets here. FanDuel Sports, we can bet the first quarterback outside of Cam Ward. Right now, Dart plus 150, Shedeur Sanders plus 210. I don't mind that Dart number, plus 250, to go above Shedeur Sanders. We took that at plus 200 yesterday. So I think that's in play. And you look at a lot of the mock drafts that I trust, a lot of them do have Dart going above Shedeur Sanders. We had Dane Brugler, did not have Shedeur going to 21 to the Saints. He instead had them taking defensive tackle. Jaxson Dart went number 26 via a trade there. You also had Daniel Jeremiah, one of the most plugged-in reporters for the NFL draft, did have Shedeur going at 21, but he had the Seahawks trading down from 18 and Dart going at pick 18. So he went above Shedeur Sanders there. Same thing for Todd McShay. Also did not have Shedeur going 21 and had Jaxson Dart going above him. So plugged in people who have been ahead of the market with quarterback stuff throughout this year have been saying they think there's a pretty good chance that Jaxson Dart goes above Shedeur Sanders. So I don't mind him at plus 150 in that market. I think my favorite bet for the quarterbacks in this draft, though, is going to be on which team drafts Jaxson Dart. As of now, it seems like that is a two-horse race between the New York Giants and the New Orleans Saints. It seems like both those teams have a bit of infatuation with Jaxson Dart as of right now. Both teams not going to take him in the top 10, but would try to potentially trade back into the first round to take him or stick and pick in the second round. At FanDuel Sportsbook, the Giants are minus 120. The Saints are plus 250. Now, when I've been reading the tea leaves in the Saints, I didn't think they'd be going quarterback, but that was also based on when there was a lot of steam for them to take quarterback at number 9 overall. It's a very different situation when they're potentially getting him in the second round or trading up in the late first round to get that player. So that's kind of changed my overall sentiment on the Saints as a team. And I think that when they're at plus 250, when it's not really a two-horse race, because there are teams that could take him. I mean, the Steelers could take him. Rams could take him. They were mocked by Mel Kiper taking Jaxson Dart. The Browns could take him at 33 overall. There are some options for sure, but it's not a bad number on the Saints to draft Dart at plus 250, given that it does seem like the most likely landing spots are the Giants and the Saints, and the Giants are minus 120, while the Saints are plus 250. It is really hard to bet on picks that involve a trade and require a trade. And that's why I want to take the longer option here as of right now. So I'm going to go with the Saints at plus 250 to draft Jaxson Dart as my favorite quarterback-specific bet in the NFL draft as things stand right now. Again, I do think there is some interest in betting Dart to go above Shedeur Sanders being the second quarterback taken. Jalen Milroe does not seem to be super big in that discussion. Was not involved in any of the mock drafts in the first round of the ones that I trust. Adam Schefter in a report dated Monday kind of went out of his way to say, yeah, Milroe got invited to the draft, but that does not mean he'll go round 1. So I don't factor Milroe into that market all that much. I just prefer to go with Dart to be taken by the Saints over Dart over Sanders. I think both are very viable. If you were able to find Dart at a longer than plus 150, again, I took 2-1 yesterday. I feel better about it right now. If you're plus 175 and it's not a situation where it's moved against me, then I do think I would consider Dart there. But at FanDuel Sportsbook, specifically plus 250 for Dart to go to the Saints, I think is a quality bet. Other thing that's kind of stood out in the mock drafts that have been released by, again, people I trust across Wednesday and Thursday is there is a lot of steam on Calvin Banks going 6th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this has shortened to reflect what we see in the mock drafts because he was plus 160 earlier this morning and now down to plus 145. I do still think there is value in that number as things stand. Because again, a lot of people who are plugged in the league are coalescing around Calvin Banks to go 6th overall. Albert Breer, Calvin Banks, 6th overall in his mock draft at Sports Illustrated. Lance Zierlein on NFL.com. He has Calvin Banks 6th overall. Dane Brugler, Calvin Banks. Daniel Jeremiah, Calvin Banks. Peter Schrager is a guy I trust, but he had Armand Membu going 6th overall. But Todd McShay, Calvin Banks going 6th overall. Potentially a trade out situation here with the Raiders. Never know about that. But when you have Breer, Zierlein, Brugler, Jeremiah, McShay all aligning around one player, I'm going to buy into what they're saying. Because again, a lot of this info is coming out within that 12-hour window where we start to get more actual NFL draft info. So you want to be cautious here. You don't want to pay an outrageous price to bet Calvin Banks to go 6th overall, because I would expect this number to continue to shorten as the morning goes along. But as things stand right now, plus 145, I still think a quality bet. One can say it's down to the plus 120, plus 110 range. That's where I start to hesitate. That's where I start to say, maybe I don't actually want to go this direction with this bet, because maybe the market is fully baking in the information I'm using to make this bet. But as the things stand right now, plus 145 to me, a quality bet for Calvin Banks to be the 6th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Other thesis I've kind of been working with throughout this draft process is I think there are a lot of teams at the back end of the first round that could want to go running back with their first pick. That includes, honestly, the Buffalo Bills. They're a long shot to do so based on the betting odds. They're 31-1 to take a running back with their first pick, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. I did take that myself, so I think there is value in the 31-1, but it also means I'm betting specifically on the Bills to do so. I think the Chiefs are in play. There was a report yesterday that they had done some work with Trevion Henderson. They're 10-1 to take a running back with their first pick of this draft. Andy Reid was involved in that meeting with Henderson. They do have a need a running back. I think Isaiah Pacheco definitely took a step back last year, whether it was because of the broken leg or otherwise. It's a contract year for Pacheco as well. So I could see the Chiefs going running back at 10-1. There are other teams up there. The Washington Commanders could do a running back. I think Schrager actually had the Vikings taking a running back in his draft. The Vikings people I follow on Twitter were in disagreement with that pick, but he did have Amari Hampton going 24th overall to the Vikings. So there are a lot of teams in the 20s. Texans are mentioned as a team that could draft a running back too, which would be kind of wild, honestly, but like, hey, it could happen. A lot of teams in the 20s and in the 30s that could consider going running back in the first round. As a result, I think there is value on there being over 2.5 running backs drafted in the first round of tonight's draft. That is currently plus 125 at FanDuel Sportsbook. The 2.5, I think, would wind up being Ashton Genty, somewhere in the top 5 most likely, but then also Amari Hampton and Trevion Henderson getting a lot of buzz here recently. And again, I think there are just a lot of spots that could go running back. That could be the Broncos. Obviously, they are a team that's been favored to draft a running back throughout most of this process. But then again, you're looking at maybe the Vikings, maybe the Texans, but more realistically looking at teams like the Commanders, the Bills, the Chiefs. I think at least some outside shot to draft a running back. But then also we could see a team trade back into the first round, getting above the Browns at pick 33 to draft a running back as well. So I think what we have here is multiple paths to a running back, a third running back going in this first round. We're getting it at plus 125. I, again, have interest in taking some swipes at the longer shots to be specific teams to do so. Those being the Bills at 31-1 draft running back with their first pick, or the Chiefs at 10-1. I think both those numbers are very much live, but this is my preferred bet as things stand right now. Over 2.5 running backs at plus 125 in the first round. If there are not a ton of premier players in this draft, the opportunity cost of taking a running back is lower, but I think the teams will take that into account their process for tonight. So over 2.5 plus 125 for me at FanDuel Sportsbook, number of running backs in the first round. Are some other markets I've been looking at today. Those are the three I feel best about. I was intrigued for a while about total number of quarterbacks in round one. I took the under 2.5 when it was plus 330. It's now plus 125. That's actually moving the other way, where it seems like there's been some movement towards over 2.5. So plus 125 to me, not a good enough number to take that, given that a lot of mocks do have Shedeur Sanders going 21st overall. I do think there's a good chance that we see either the Giants or Saints trade back into the first round, trade to take Jaxson Dart as well. So couldn't quite get there. I think that I had some interest in Tyler Warren markets, trying to bet on him to go before that 10th overall pick with the Bears, because it seems like everybody knows the Bears would take Warren if he's there. So if you want Warren, trade above them to get them. And I think that Dan and Jeremiah may have actually had that happening in one of his mocks. He had Warren going 10th overall. There was someone who had a team trading above. Yeah, it was Lance Zierlein had the Colts trading in front of the Bears to take Colson Loveland. So I could see that maybe it's not Loveland specifically, but a team trading above the Bears to take a tight end. I don't think that would be totally out of left field by any means. So other things I'm taking a look at here overall, and I'll have a piece up at FanDuel Research later on today breaking down other bets that I like. And again, if things move, I may have to pivot for that piece. So the recommendations I make here may not align with that piece later on today, because markets will move and I want to respect that movement based on what we learned from betting last year's draft. So if you want some more thoughts or if things have moved, check out FanDuel.com/research for my final bets on the 2025 NFL draft. That is all that we have here for today on covering the spread. Should be a pretty fun night. I know it looks pretty chalky for the top 6 picks, but we always get some chaos at some point in the draft, and I think it'll be fun if we do get that for tonight. So looking forward to seeing it all play out. Again, do not forget to subscribe to the Covering the Spread podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Kentucky Derby and Pitching Ninja coming up next week. And also, again, check out the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page for some NFL draft reactions over there as well, via the good folks on the FanDuel YouTube side of things. If you got any questions for me, I'm on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the NFL draft tonight. Good luck with your bets. We'll talk to you once again next week for the Kentucky Derby. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.